it didn't really mean that much to me, but somebody said, you know, it mightn't seem like much now, but it is history.
He didn't chase the spotlight, he didn't fight for attention or crave applause. While John and Paul battled for brilliance, George Harrison simply played. And somehow, the world leaned closer. He wasn't loud, he wasn't showy, but every note he played carried something deeper, a kind of stillness. For George, music wasn't just sound, it was spirit. Before we uncover the 6 Beatles songs that stayed with him long after the band ended, make sure to subscribe, tap the bell, and join us as we explore the soul of the quiet Beatle. Because this isn't just about songs, it's about a man who turned silence into something eternal. George Harrison was the calm eye in the storm of Beatlemania. While the world screamed, he stayed still, observing, absorbing, searching.
Yes, some of them are old Beatles songs. There's a couple that, go back to from 1965, maybe.
He didn't want to be a star. He wanted to understand what music really meant. To George, a song wasn't a performance. It was a path, a way to connect to something unseen. Inside the Beatles' enormous catalog, certain songs echoed with that same vibration. They weren't the biggest hits. They weren't the most popular. But they were the ones that spoke directly to who George was, a man quietly reaching beyond fame toward truth. Each of his 6 favorite Beatles songs marks a step on that inner journey, from curiosity to courage, from sound to silence. Number 1, Norwegian Wood, the beginning of discovery.
I once had a girl, or should I say, she once had me.
It all started with Rubber Soul. For most fans, that album was a creative leap. For George, it was an awakening. He later called it his favorite Beatles record, not because it sold millions, but because it felt like discovery. The band wasn't just making pop music anymore. They were experimenting, opening new doors, searching for depth. And at the heart of that change was one track. It wasn't Lennon's lyrics that defined it. It was George's sitar. The moment he brought that ancient Indian instrument into a Beatles song, something shifted, not just in sound, but in spirit. It was as if George had found a new compass. The sitar wasn't decoration, it was direction. It represented a bridge between east and west, body and soul, fame and faith. You can almost feel it in the recording, each note gently bending rock music towards something sacred. This was the spark that would shape his life. From this moment on, George wasn't just playing guitar, he was seeking enlightenment. Number 2, Strawberry Fields Forever, breaking the rules.
'Cause I'm going to Strawberry Fields.
If Rubber Soul was the doorway, Strawberry Fields Forever was what lay beyond it. Lennon may have written it, but for George, it was proof that the Beatles were no longer just a band. They were explorers of sound and consciousness. He was fascinated by its texture, the swirling tape loops, the dreamlike layers, the way it blurred reality into something psychedelic and profound. This was art without fear. It wasn't made for radio or charts, it was made for truth. George once said that what drew him to that song was the way the band began hearing sounds we weren't able to hear before. That line says everything. He respected the bravery it took to make something that didn't explain itself. A track that lived in ambiguity, in emotion, in imagination. To George, Strawberry Fields Forever wasn't just a Lennon song. It was a statement that music could be inner travel, a mirror to the mind rather than a message to the masses. It confirmed what he already believed, that the best art doesn't entertain, it awakens. Number 3, Eleanor Rigby, The Power of Silence.
Ah, look at all the lonely people.
Where Strawberry Fields was surreal, Eleanor Rigby was painfully real. No guitars, no drums, no flash, just a haunting string quartet and words about loneliness, death, and forgotten lives. George admired it deeply, because while others might have seen a pop experiment, he saw courage, the courage to tell the truth. He once said what impressed him was its boldness. It didn't care about expectations. It didn't try to sound like the Beatles the world wanted. To George, Eleanor Rigby was proof that simplicity could be revolutionary. It stripped music down to its emotional bones, and it touched a nerve that ran deep in him, the awareness that fame and fortune can't protect anyone from isolation. He saw himself in that song, the quiet Beatles surrounded by people, yet always searching inward. For George, Eleanor Rigby was the moment the Beatles grew up, when pop became poetry and silence became as powerful as sound. Number 4, This Boy. Remembering the Harmony.
Took my love away.
George rarely looked back, but This Boy always brought him home. A simple B-side from 1963. 3 young men harmonizing, unaware of what was coming. Years later, watching an old clip of them performing it, George smiled, joined in quietly, and said, "It's a good song, though. A good song." That tiny moment said it all, because for George, This Boy captured something the Beatles would lose too soon. Pure harmony. No ego, no noise, just unity. Before the fame, before the fractures, they were one sound, equal voices blending perfectly. To him, this wasn't about nostalgia. It was about remembering why music mattered in the first place. It was never meant to dominate or divide. It was meant to connect. This Boy reminded him, and us, that at the heart of all the innovation and chaos, there was once a simple joy. 3 voices, 1 soul. Number 5, Because. The sound of transcendence.
Because the world is.
By the time Abbey Road came along, the Beatles were unraveling, emotionally, personally, musically. But out of that chaos came stillness. Because was George's favorite from that album. He called it one of the most beautiful things we ever did. And he meant it. 9 layers of harmony. John, Paul, and George blending until they became one voice. No theatrics, no noise, just calm, just clarity. For George, this song wasn't about showing skill. It was about surrender. He'd spent years chasing transcendence through meditation, mantras, and music. And because he heard it, that moment where sound becomes silence, it's music that floats, music that breathes, music that doesn't need to prove anything. To George, because was the sound of letting go, of ego, of fame, of self. It wasn't just beautiful, it was eternal. Number 6, In My Life, the Song of Gratitude.
Places that I remember all my life.
After the Beatles ended, George built his own universe. He wrote, he prayed, he gardened, he healed. But in 1974, something unexpected happened. On his solo tour, he performed In My Life, the only Lennon-McCartney song he ever sang live after the breakup. Why that song? Maybe because it wasn't about fame or youth. It was about memory, about gratitude and the passage of time. George had always struggled with being overshadowed, but this song wasn't about competition. It was about acceptance. He didn't need to explain why he chose it. He didn't need to. Performing In My Life was his quiet thank you. To the journey, to his friends, and to the music that started it all. It was George letting go of the past, but also honoring it, with the grace only he could carry. George Harrison's favorite Beatles songs weren't the loudest or the most famous. They were the ones that spoke the truth. Norwegian Wood, Strawberry Fields Forever, Eleanor Rigby, This Boy, Because, In My Life. Together, they reveal not the rock star, but the seeker. A man who used music to find peace. A man who showed the world that quiet doesn't mean weak. It means awake. The quiet Beatle didn't chase glory. He found something far greater. Truth that still echoes, note by note, decade after decade. If this story moved you, hit like, share it with another Beatles fan, and drop your favorite George Harrison moment in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that dig beneath the fame to find the heart, the art, and the soul of the legends who changed music forever.